Hey guys, welcome back. So I normally don't do product review videos, right? But I recently bought one of these mini pulse arc welders for jewelry making and hobbyist metalworking, and I just thought this thing was just too cool not to share with you guys. I've wanted one of these things for a while, and I actually bought one like a year ago, but I had to return it because it was a total piece of junk. It didn't work, and it was just made really poorly. But I recently saw one of these on another channel, and theirs seemed to work just fine. This had me wondering if maybe there were like several versions of this machine coming out of China, some good from some factories and others not so good. So I thought I'd give it another shot, and I ordered another one from a different supplier, and the second one I received is perfect. On the outside, they look identical. And now I kind of wish I didn't return the first one because it would be really interesting to open them both up and compare the parts inside to see exactly why one is just so much better than the other. But anyway, this is what you get in the box. This is the handpiece, and I could already tell as soon as I picked it up that it's made much better than the first one. It's heavier and just feels like it's better quality. It comes with a regulator because the machine is intended to be used with argon. But if you don't want to use argon or you don't have argon, with this type of pulse arc welding, you can actually weld without it, and that's one of the reasons why I like this machine so much. I mean, your welds would obviously be better and cleaner with argon, but with pulse arc welding, it's not really necessary. This is the stand that it comes with, so you can either use it hands-free or you can remove it from the stand and use it manually. It comes with a package of different sized tungsten rods and collets, and it even comes with this little USB-powered sharpening machine for sharpening the rods. If you want to use argon, it comes with all the hoses, but in this video, all the demonstrating I'm going to do is without argon. I mean, that's why I bought it, because it didn't need gas. But just know that if you use argon, the results would be even better than I'm going to show you here. So you have everything you need to use gas if you want to use it. The mini disposable argon tanks are popular with these types of machines because they use such a small amount of gas. So setting up the machine is really simple. All you need to do is assemble the stand. You're going to plug in the handpiece, plug in your ground wire. The machine comes with two different options for grounding your work. You can either use an alligator clip or there's also a tweezer type for doing really small detail work like tiny jump rings or permanent jewelry or something like that. But I'm going to use the alligator clip. Now, the machine has several presets for a bunch of different metal types, and that's another reason why this machine is so great. Not only can you weld just about every metal, even difficult to weld materials like titanium, but you can even weld almost any combination of dissimilar metals, which is almost impossible with any other form of welding. So I'm sure that these presets will come in handy at some point, but I didn't really use them too much. I found that the easiest thing to do was just play around with the manual adjustments until I found the perfect settings for what I was working on. Another benefit of this type of welder is just how easy it is. Unlike other forms of welding that require significant practice, with pulse arc welding, just about anyone can use it right out of the box. All you need to really do is touch the tip where you want the weld, and as soon as it makes contact, it creates a weld. It's really that simple. When I was researching this machine, I had two questions that I couldn't find a definitive answer on. The first was exactly which metals and metal combinations could be welded with the machine. And the second was what's the range of material thickness that could be successfully welded with the machine. So I think that's what I'm going to try and answer in this video. I'm going to test as many material and material combinations as I can, as well as try and demonstrate the range of project sizes possible with the machine. To hopefully give you an idea what you can use it for, because after playing around with it, I'm convinced that this is much more than just a jewelry welder. It's more like a mini hobby welder. So as you can see, it can easily weld stainless. Honestly, steel is probably the easiest metal to weld, so let's try brass. I bent a brass rod into a ring so we can try and weld it to itself, and as you can see, no problem there. The next thing I wanted to try was combining some dissimilar metals, which is sometimes extremely difficult, if not impossible, with most other forms of welding. Here I'm tacking a piece of pure copper onto, I'm not sure of the alloy, but it's a form of stainless steel. When you use this machine without argon, you often get black soot around your welds, but it's easily removed with a buffing wheel, and overall much easier and cleaner than typical jewelry soldering, because you don't need to pickle your work after each connection. Next, I wanted to try thin aluminum sheet, which is another difficult to weld material. This normally requires expensive AC TIG machines, and only after significant training is it even possible to do without blowing a hole through the material. But as you can see with this machine, it's a piece of cake. While I had the sheet out, I thought I would try something that I believed had zero chance of working. That would be welding stainless steel to aluminum. Because of the vastly different melting points and the fact that aluminum quickly oxidizes, this combo is generally seen as not weldable. But with this machine, it actually works. I'm not sure how structurally sound the weld is, but if it's just for jewelry or hobby work, I think it's okay. So it's obviously a capable little machine for jewelry-sized projects, but one question I had when I was researching the machine was if it was useful for welding larger stuff. Because of the way this type of welding works, short pulses, I was worried the machine didn't have enough power to weld projects with larger mass. I thought larger pieces of metal might work as a heat sink and prevent the metal from pooling, so I tested some welds on a 1-inch pipe nipple, and it seemed to work even better than the thinner material. At this point, I wanted to keep pushing it to see if there was a point where the mass became too great to even take a weld. And I also wanted to test brass, so I stacked this brass fitting on top, welded it in place with no problem, and off camera I tested the weld strength by hanging my entire weight on the assembly, and it supported me. So the weld strength seemed really good for such a small welder. I was determined to find something this machine couldn't weld. So I grabbed a chunk of germanium I've had sitting on my desk forever, which isn't even metal, it's a metalloid, similar to silicon. And I was kind of shocked, but it actually worked. But welding it was giving off yellow smoke that I'm sure took a couple years off my life, so I didn't play around with that for too long. So after testing it for a week, I think this might be one of my favorite tools ever. I really wish I bought it sooner. I'm thinking back to all the projects I worked on over the past few years, and how much easier they would have been if I had it. So I definitely give it 2 thumbs up. But who's it for exactly? Like, who would buy this? Well, it's marketed as a jewelry welder, so it's obviously great for that. It eliminates the need for soldering in probably most cases where you need to join metal. But in my opinion, the machine is much more versatile than just jewelry. The lowest power setting on this machine is actually a little too strong for very fine jewelry welding, like when you're welding super thin jump rings, so you need to be careful there. But I think the designers of this machine intentionally overpowered it so that it would be useful for a lot more than just jewelry. Because it is. I see it more of as a general hobby welder. Whether you're making models or sculptures, maybe you're into drones, you can use it for general fabrication, or you could even use it as a battery tab welder for welding nickel strips to lithium-ion batteries. Definitely robotics. It's great for general home use and repairs, tool making. You can use it to repair tools and dies. If you already have a TIG welder, it's great for getting into difficult to reach areas, or you can use it as a tack welder. If you're into 3D printing and need to incorporate metal components into your 3D prints, this is great because this type of pulse arc welding is also known as cold welding. What that means is because the welds are created through a series of quick pulses, the metal tends to stay far colder than standard welding that would melt any plastic that might be touching the metal being welded. With this machine, you could weld metal features that are embedded in plastic without worrying about the plastic melting or deforming. As a matter of fact, this type of machine is used for permanent jewelry where the bracelets are welded while the customer is wearing them, so they don't get very hot at all. Circuit board repair, crafting. I mean, this is one of those tools you don't even realize you need it until you get it. For an entire week after I got it, I was noticing things all over my house that I could repair with just a couple tack welds. I know me praising this thing probably sounds like an advertisement, but I assure you, it's not. I paid for this with money out of my own pocket because I wanted it, and I needed it. And after the fact, I figured maybe I could make a video, and if it got enough views, maybe I'd get some of my money back. You can find these machines on both Amazon and AliExpress. They range between $200 and $400. They all look exactly the same, but I assure you, they're not. Some versions are worthless. I'll include a link in the description where I bought mine, and at $200, it just so happens to be one of the cheapest vendors anyway, so I wouldn't risk buying anywhere else. Anyway, I think that about covers it. I'm getting so close to 100,000 subs, so if you wouldn't mind liking and subscribing to help push me over the finish line, I would really appreciate it. I have some big news regarding the 3D printed everything machine project, specifically the gumball station. I've been working on the first conversion, which will be giving it CNC milling functionality. But although I do have CNC experience, I've never done lapidary CNC work before, which is a completely different animal. But almost as a sign of divine providence, Carvera recently reached out and they offered to send me a free Carvera Air to do with whatever I wish. So what I think I'm going to do is try to convert that to a lapidary CNC machine and transfer everything I learned there to the gumball station. So if you're interested in checking out that journey, stay tuned. I also have a new Patreon for anyone who would like to support the project. Links for everything I mentioned will be in the description. And I think that'll do it. Alright guys, thanks for watching. See you next time.